like to pay a couple respects to the people that made me what I am today.
Dawson Gear.
It's all my love. It's all my love.
The quiet man.
It's all my love. It's all my love.
Dopamine.
Welcome to the Soul Facts Podcast, the podcast where three expats discuss education, culture, and life on the Korean Peninsula. I'm Jack, and I'm here with Kevin and Ryan. Guys, how are you doing this evening?
Evening. Doing good.
All right, excellent. Happy birthday, Ryan. I hope
Thank you.
I didn't cross the line there or anything, but
No, not at all. Not
okay,
at all.
okay. Nice. Roll up a newspaper and hit us on the nose because we're getting into the garbage tonight. Okay. I know it was
Bad
terrible.
dog.
I wrote that about 10 hours ago, and I couldn't wait to say it.
Yeah,
But
well
yeah,
refined.
we're talking.
Without
talking
you,
trash.
we wouldn't have any puns in this podcast, and I'm glad that you're here to keep us with the puns.
Right. I mean, what would you guys do without my my
I
dad?
honestly
joke?
don't know.
You know, yeah. It's once you have a kid, you just have carte blanche, dad joke, freedom. So it's very liberating, very liberating.
A reason to have kids. Anyway, continue.
Sorry. All right. Yeah. Let's. I digress, and we'll come back to our topic, which is we're talking about garbage and trash collection, and how the system works in Korea. And this is for, I think, for those of our listeners that are thinking about coming to Korea, those that have just arrived, and even those that are already here might find this a little bit interesting, because there is a method to the madness. It's just that it takes a little while to kind of get used to it, and I think there's there's a good reason they kind of switched over to the current system, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But first, I thought what I'd like to do, and you guys can feel free to interject and interrupt me anytime. But I wanted to just talk about what the garbage disposal system is like here in Korea. And so what they have, it's called and Kevin, you can help me with this, Jongyangji system. Have you heard that before?
Jongyangji.
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 Yeah, it's the what the system is there's common garbage. So you have ilban suregi, which is common garbage, and then you have the umshik suregi, which is the food garbage waste, and then you have the jaehwal yongpum, which is large waste objects like desks and chairs and things like that. And we in Korea, those things are all separated and require either different types of bags or stickers.
So the big stuff.
Yeah. For the big stuff, there are stickers. And so I'll just start with the food waste. Is the suregi bongtu, or the umshik suregi bongtu, comes in a 3 liter, 5 liter, and 10 liter bag, and you can throw if you're whatever food waste that you have. What did you guys do when you're growing up? Where did food waste go?
Garbage
I grew
disposal.
up in the countryside, so I'm from a little town in Wisconsin. I mean, Jack, you're from a smaller town too, aren't you?
Well, I'm from the suburbs of Minnesota, like Minneapolis and St. Paul. So
okay. So I grew up in like northeastern Wisconsin, in the middle of nowhere. My town's unincorporated; it's tiny. So when it came to food waste, we had a garbage disposal. We didn't like to use it. I remember my mom didn't. Not just my mom. We didn't like it. It was, I don't know, the blades don't work, whatever, just whatever.
Yeah, it gets stuck.
So we had a garden.
Yeah.
We compost is the short answer. There you go. So we compost, or if something's kind of burdensome, like you don't compost bones, so those go into the trash.
Yeah, actually, I've realized over the years in Korea, I haven't been disposing properly of food garbage. I guess I just
putting the
outed
wrong
myself.
things.
Yeah, well, because it's, I mean, I have a list right here of like the things that that are not acceptable, and it's
Let me see if
kind of,
the things that I know that are not acceptable are like bones and eggshells primarily. That's usually what we like
yeah,
throw away
bones.
separately.
It says bones and feathers, but I don't think anyone's skinning a chicken in their kitchen. Well, maybe Ryan. I don't know. If any of the three of
You
us
never
were to
know,
do it,
dude.
yeah,
It's gonna be right.
I'm
it's gonna be
stuffing
Ryan.
I'm stuffing pillows over here. Yeah.
Right,
Busy,
yeah,
busy.
making down comforters and
Yeah.
jackets. Why not, man?
Yeah, you want a pillow? I got it.
I'll take a down pillow any day. That'd be great. The shells and stuff like that, seafood shells. You should
Yeah, of
not
course.
put those in there. But also says like seeds, persimmon seeds, chestnuts, peanuts, walnuts, coconuts, things like that are not acceptable as food waste. So that was kind of interesting. I don't know
Small
why.
nuts kind of surprised me. Big nut, like coconuts, that makes sense. I mean, that's not going to turn into anything.
Yeah, and the reason they do the food bag separation is because of like what, Ryan, you growing up in the countryside, it's for composting. They take this and they actually use it to replenish the ground for crops. Am I mistaken about that, or that was my assumption?
Yeah, so I assumed that too when I arrived here ages ago, and I still wonder, and I still have yet to get a clear answer. If anybody's listening, if you give me an answer, I'd love to hear it. The not being able to compost things like eggshells,
It doesn't
like
make sense.
it's yeah, it's like an eggshell. I mean, I can just in my hand, and like the first, I didn't hear compost when I first heard of like separating the food waste, which I was impressed by because I came from a city that didn't do this. And when I was in graduate school, so this was really cool to me to see the waste separation. And I had to go down the elevator. I was in an apartment building. What do you call it? Office is the first unit that I was living in. So I would go downstairs, and it's like all kind of it's impressive to have all these different segments for your wastes and everything, and it seemed really efficient. But I really wondered what was up with the food waste. And when I asked friends, they told me, oh, it's because they feed it to animals,
I heard that.
specifically to pigs.
Probably
Yeah, and
pigs, right?
pigs was the one thing.
Yeah.
And like I'm from Northeast Wisconsin, so we don't really have pigs. We have cows, but I've seen pigs. I've been around a few pigs, and a pig does not mind an eggshell. That's not a thing. Like a pig will eat an eggshell very happily and not even know it ate an eggshell. So I think there's something more to it. I'm sure there's a reason why that policy exists, but
maybe there's some like foodborne bacteria or something in the eggshell. I don't know. I didn't realize actually, you know what? I highlighted this right here. It says the suggested rule of thumb is to include only what animals can eat as food waste. So I'm assuming that means that
seeds should be okay for that though.
Yeah.
Strange.
Yeah, it's weird. I gotta be more careful about what I include in food waste, because I just kind of figured if it's like if I'm not eating it, I just chuck it in peels and all that sort of stuff. But okay. So and those are the orange. I don't know if they're orange where you guys live. Are your food garbage bags orange?
Yellow.
Oh, you have yellow? Okay. So it's each municipality.
We actually
has like
don't even use bags here. Have you seen the buckets instead?
No.
Yeah, he's in the countryside. He's a little outside the city. So he's got the bucket.
You have
I mean, we're
you also
super
have a
in the
building.
city.
Yeah, but you have a building, right? So like
it doesn't matter. I think it's just because I think we just have enough. Like that's what my mother-in-law uses is the bucket, and it's just so instead of buying a bag, it's just a reusable. It's a small bucket. It's like 3 or 5 liters, and you just put a sticker on it, and like the sticker is the payment. So it's like whenever your bucket is full, you put a sticker on it.
So this one I know from Itaewon when I used to live there. So if you're in a smaller building, you can do the bucket like thing. But if you're not collaborating with enough people or whatever. If you just have your own stuff, basically it's like size. So if you have like 1 liter, 2 liter, whatever, you can get plastic
That's just not
bags,
worth it unless
or
you
you
have
can,
enough.
yeah, right. So like when I lived in
Mhm.
Itaewon, I was in a 5-story building and we had the bucket for a while. And then I don't know, whoever was managing got sick of emptying it. There was too much garbage. And they rolled over and just said, hey, everybody needs to do their own. Here I live in a house. It's just 2 residences. So it's ours up here. And then there's a single grandmother that lives downstairs and she has the whole floor. Yet we still separate. And I think it's just because of like lack of interest to collaborate or something like that.
Yeah. Well, we do, you know, we in the summer I buy these resin bags. So I'm assuming these resin bags are biodegradable, the ones that they sell. And in the summer we buy the 3 liter because, you know, you don't want to leave your food garbage too long. You know, it just kind of sits in the sink. And then in the winter I might bump it up to 5 liters, which buys me a little bit more time, fewer trips down to the but there's just a big giant food garbage bin basically, and you just throw the bag inside there, and that's how we do it here in Pyeongtaek. But
What I used to do when we were living in a smaller place without like the parents here, and we would have the bags, just so you know, like I would so you don't have to deal with like food waste, just, you know, like that shitty liquid forming.
oh, I
Just
know, yeah.
put your food waste bag in the freezer until it fills up,
Oh,
instead of
that's
keeping it in the
interesting.
sink. Keep it in
Okay.
the, like, put
Yeah,
your
I did
bag
that.
like
I
kind
did
of
that
half.
in the office till, yeah, I was
Yeah.
on the 22nd floor. Yeah, that was like, yeah, excellent advice.
You don't like
Yeah, as
Instead
it
of
goes
going
down
down every
fills, it
day.
just stays
you don't
frozen.
like the drip of the brown liquid that kind of floats into down the drain every time you run water in the sink or pick
I
up the
mean,
bag?
if you're into that,
Yeah, it's really, I mean, again, you know, I'm not gonna lie, when I came to Korea and I realized that we have to separate food garbage, I was like, that's crazy, like this is way over the top, you know. But over time I came to kind of appreciate that, like, you know what, it makes me feel good, like I'm doing something to help the environment, you know. And it's yeah, it's I'm converted, you know. I'm a
no,
believer. So
I'm a fan of the
yeah.
trash separation in general here for sure, and the food waste is good. My first year here, I didn't really have to mess with it because I never cooked, so I had
Right.
no food waste. But yeah, it's yeah, it's a bit of a hassle until you get used to it, but
Yeah.
it's a good idea. It works.
Well, let's talk about recycling then, because we're kind of going through. Let's just hit like the big ones here. So it says recycling is mandatory, and recycled items can be disposed of in any clear plastic bag. But they now this is something that I might be guilty of as well. It says please rinse or wash before disposing containers. So if you drink a soda or something, do you peel the label off? Do you rinse it out and squash it and then put it in you know, and then recycle it? Or do you just kind of chuck it in the, I usually have like a box from Costco that's our recycle box, and then we just throw plastic in there and paper.
So my wife is really good at this, like really good at it. So I mean, we'll wash out like our milk containers before we take them out, so that, and then like break down the paper. For plastic bottles, yeah, we definitely take the labels off. By the way, in my research for today,
Okay.
I found something as well that I think it's just an article from 2 days ago, that they're going to start having a bigger penalty for not recycling your transparent water bottles correctly,
Yes.
by not separating everything. So
300,000
be careful.
Yeah.
Be careful with that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So be careful, because I don't know if this is true or not, but it could be apocryphal. But I heard that there are like spies, like people will kind of inform on others who are not disposing of their garbage properly, and there's like a little reward. Have you heard that before, or am I just making
No,
this up?
wouldn't surprise me. It's probably practical. I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I haven't heard of it though.
I'm wondering if so you see, like, you never know, you could you know, you could get busted by a neighbor or somebody who's I don't know, secretly recording you throwing not
A little off topic. I don't know how I feel about that in general. I both agree and disagree with it at the same time. I hate the 1984 aspect of
Yeah, it's so
narking
narky,
on your
right?
neighbors.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
but at the same time, this isn't narking on your neighbors for like having a late night party and like hanging out. This is like narking on them for destroying the environment. So I don't
Yeah.
really feel so bad about this specific one. Like, I don't know if I would do it or not. I might. Like, if I saw someone that was constantly just throwing away their trash wrong, and I knew that there was a reward that I could get, yeah, I'd probably do it. If they were having a
Right.
late night party one night, I
Yeah.
wouldn't call the cops on them immediately though. Like, there's some things that I guess I might be okay with narking on, but it does feel weird. It does feel a bit Big Brothery.
Yeah, I'm of two minds of it with it too. You know, it's
Same,
kind of.
yeah.
I guess it depends on which end of the you're on. You know, am
Of
I getting
course.
paid or am I paying the
Yeah.
fine?
Did you guys want to talk about like the efficiency of the system? Like there was a video that Jack, did you share it or Kevin? Looking at the, I think it was specifically the food waste and how they dry and yeah, was it yours, Kevin? Did you send that?
Yeah. But
Yeah, so that they dry it, whatever, and they grind it, powderize it, whatever. The thing that caught me in that article was like two things. One was the effort was really impressive. The amount of effort they did to coordinate the whole country to do this.
Mhm.
And the other thing that was
Yeah.
impressive, in like a negative way, I guess, not negative, but the other thing that impressed me or gave me an impression was that the system's not efficient at all, and it actually wastes money currently. So there's actually not a path to profitability for the. Oh, it's a private company. It's a private company that is contracting with the government, and so they're surviving off of subsidies, which is our tax dollars, to create this program, which actually has no path to profitability. That was like the final line of the video, was basically like, this is in jeopardy. It's in peril. Like we don't know where this is going to go because they're not doing really well with that system. So coming from America, where I was, I've seen different systems. I lived in a few different cities. I've lived in the West Coast. I lived in the East Coast. When I was in Boston, way back in like when I was like 21 years old, I remember working at a pizzeria. I was a cook, and this is like 2001. I remember we had cans for tomatoes to make the tomato sauce. We didn't use fresh tomatoes. I won't say the name of the pizzeria, but
Ooh,
it's a fact.
it was Gino's, right?
Tomatoes.
Gino's Pizzeria. I knew it.
I will say this: anyone listening that wants to sleuth this out to know where we were copping out, we were ranked in the Culinary Guide Best of Boston as the #1 sauce for our pizza, which is ironic because it was canned tomatoes. Yeah, secret.
Google #1
secret.
sauce in Boston.
Yeah, yeah, go find it. So I remember I had moved there from Wisconsin. So that's before I lived in the West Coast. But I was impressed by the fact that when we used those big cans of tomatoes, we took the cans and they just went in the trash. Straight to the trash.
That's what we did too in Minnesota. We just threw everything goes in a big giant hefty bag. There's no separation.
Yeah, it was everything together.
Yeah.
And it was something like restaurants could do it in Boston, but if you were like, maybe they paid a fee to be able to do that. But like in our apartment, I think we had to separate just general recyclables with, I don't remember, whatever it was, but the restaurant had that ability. So going from something like that, and then like several years later coming to Korea and having everything separated, it's a tremendous amount of effort going into it. So I wonder what the payoff is. You know, Korea, as everybody knows, has a very limited amount of land. There's not, I mean, I don't know how many landfills are in Korea. How many could there be?
Well,
you know, how many square miles are landfill in this country? It can't be much.
I think I might be able to help you with a little bit of this because there's an article right here. It's the title is and I can link the title these articles later in the comment section or whatever. But it says, "Don't talk trash about Korea's waste management system," and it starts with like the article starts with one of the frustrations that I think we've all encountered is like you can't find a garbage bin anywhere. You're just walking around and you want to throw your cup away, and you're just like, you keep walking and you keep walking, and you're like, eventually I'm gonna have to come across a bin somewhere, and you just cannot find one, and it's crazy, you know. And
you end up, what I end up doing, or what I've seen most people do, is you end up finding a pile that someone has started, or
right,
you find
it's
like a
totally
trash
illegal
bag.
too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, there's someone who already set out their trash bag, and that trash bag becomes the start of a pile of trash. So it's like
Yeah.
you know, I'm yes, I'm littering, but at the same time, I'm littering in an organized
Responsibly.
fashion.
He started it.
Responsibly.
But I think the funny thing is it always starts with like a cup, and then somebody balances something on top of the cup, and then it's just like
Right.
a pyramid
Yeah, right.
of garbage that emanates from like one single cup on the ground.
No, man, I'm totally guilty of this. I'll come back from my run, whatever, you know, like, and I've got like either like I don't run with a water pack. I'll have a bottle sometimes in my backpack bag, and or like at the end of the run, I'll grab a Gatorade or something, and you know, you just slam it, and then as I'm going home, you know, you see a garbage bag that's like loosely tied.
Yes.
You kind of go for the hole, you know, you're kind of like, it's in there. Wait, that's not for bottles. That's not, you know, but whatever, you know, I put it by the
Ryan, that's
trash.
recyclable.
Yeah,
That's not even
I'm guilty.
trash.
Yeah, I'm guilty.
Guys,
guilty.
I'm sorry, Ryan. I don't mean to try to one up you, but
Please do.
I take my dog for a walk in our neighborhood, and for whatever, my dog loves to shit at this one place in the park, and I'm a good dog
He's got
owner.
a spot.
I have multiple plastic bags, but I walk around with that thing, and I'm like, there's no bin at the park. So I'm holding a bag of shit, and I'm walking around trying to find a bin, and I always find that one garbage bag where somebody didn't tie the second part of it, and it's a little bit loose.
Right.
And I just get it in there, and it's not my problem anymore. You know what I mean? Like I wash my hands of it, and yeah, it's
Jack, if you, I think I mentioned that my wife is like the queen of recycling of anyone I know. Our dogs poop bags, we've actually gotten to the point now where we take out a bit of tissue and pick up the poo with that, because you're supposed to like wipe the street off as well, just a little bit, so there's not too much remaining. But then when we get home, my wife has started dumping out the shit into the toilet, and then we use the bag again. To recycle our plastic.
Dude,
We want
to use
plastic as much as possible.
No.
Well, I stand corrected. I did not trump you, Ryan. Recycling.
I didn't see that
bags,
coming. I didn't see it coming.
That almost crosses a line, Kevin. I'm not sure if I'm not sure.
I very much admire my wife's desire to save the environment.
All right. So all right, I brought this down to the level of excrement, so I'm going to bring it back up to a more respectable level of just regular garbage. But so this is kind of interesting. Like what happened in Korea was that there's the economic boom, right, in the late 90s, and what I mean, it just the purchasing power increases, and this is after the crisis, right? There was like a crisis and then a boom following the crisis, and
the IMF crisis.
Right, yeah. I'm sorry, listeners might not be familiar that Korea went through what was the impetus for that? I forget sometimes. Like
honestly, that's something else that we can talk about.
That's a whole other podcast. Yeah, we can get into
a good topic later as well for later. The Korean histories of economics, how it's grown so quickly. But yeah, that's for another topic.
Well, just in the past 2 decades, municipal solid waste has increased 600%, from 12,000 tons in 1970 to 84,000 tons in 1990.
Wow.
It just keeps increasing, and I got a couple of so in 1995 Korea implemented the VBWF, which is the volume-based waste fee. So basically you pay as you play, you know what I mean? So as much garbage as you use, you're going to pay for it. Now, of course, this is what happens is people start arbitrage trading on this by going to the public bins. And, I'm not going to pay if I can throw it away at the park. And so what's the response? Well, we're going to take away the garbage bin at the park so that the people can't offset that cost onto the city. And now
I've heard that as a reason. Yeah, I've heard that as a reason why there's fewer bins.
Yeah, I think that's
that
what
was
I mean.
that was what always just made sense for me. Like it just I just figured like I just can imagine the older Korean ajummas being like, I'm gonna take my trash out and throw it away here so that I don't have to throw, you know, and pay the extra chonwon for the bag. The funny thing about that though is, although that's the logical argument that I came to, my wife has often told me that the reason that there's no or very few trash cans on the streets of Korea is because of terrorist threats. Apparently, at some points in the 90s, early 2000s, don't quote me on that, there was like a bomb in a trash can or something like that. And so they took out all of trash cans of the city to avoid bombs and trash cans. And that's what she's told me many times as well. Now, although I don't necessarily doubt that as true, that doesn't, your reason and the paying for trash just seems like more logical of why they'd get rid of all of them in the city.
Yeah, it says, according to this article, it says when Seoul adopted the VBWF system, the number of garbage bins were also trimmed over time, especially in residential areas. So it went from 7,600 garbage bins in Seoul, but that number dropped by almost half after the introduction of the VBWF, the volume-based waste management system. And you know, I mean, I guess there's going to be a push and a pull, or, you know, like for every, the thing I wanted to ask you guys about is like, do you consider this system like regressive taxation? I mean, do you think that, you know, because everybody, regardless of salary or whatever, however much money you make, has to pay for their own waste. And it's not based on progressive taxation, where, you know, like if people earned a lot more money, they'd be contributing more in tax dollars to, you know, garbage disposal. But instead, everybody is basically a flat tax on everyone. How do you guys feel about that? Are you okay with that, or does that, you know?
I mean, I never really thought about it in that specific way. I guess you're right. It is. It's a small benefit to the rich people because they're paying the same amount of taxes, quote unquote, that I'm paying for trash. But in the end, I mean, I never, when I came to Korea, I was always amazed at how the garbage system worked here, because I was like, this is brilliant. I didn't realize at the time, I don't think I realized for a really long time, that it was illegal to throw away recyclables. You know, like I thought if I wanted to, I could chuck my glass and my plastic into my trash bag, but then I'd be paying more for it. And so it just made logical sense that I would recycle, because recycling is free, right? I can just take this outside, put it, and I don't have to deal with it. And trash I have to pay for. And so I love the system because it forces people to recycle. As a tax thing, like you're saying, yeah, that's an interesting point. But overall, I still think the system is far better than in the States, where people just don't recycle because there's almost no incentive to recycle in the States. When I was a university student, I'm from a hippie town in Arizona. Like, still, most people that I knew didn't recycle very well because it was a pain in the ass. Like, if you wanted to recycle your cans, you had to take them to the center. And here you have to recycle because you save money to do it. There's a very obvious incentive.
The proof is kind of in the pudding. It says right here, by 2004, 10 years after the system was introduced, waste generation per day was down to 50,000 tons per day, 14% less than 1994. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, so they're actually, you know, if their goal was to reduce, you know, to make people, you know, think twice about, you know, recycling, it seemed to have a positive effect. But like what Ryan said, I don't know. It sounds like it might not be financially sustainable, though. They might be, you know, still in the deficit. I couldn't find it.
To comment on the taxation concept, like, I might run contrary to either of you guys or anybody listening, I don't know, but I'm generally, not to get too much into my own personal politics, but I'm for a flat tax rate for everyone, provided that we have regulation that ensures everybody pays the flat tax rate. I don't think if you make more money, you should be able to enjoy the fruits of your labor relatively incrementally with how much money you gain. But it's interesting when you bring up something like waste, right? Because it's different to say that, okay, I've earned twice as much as you. I can own twice as much house as you. I can buy 2 cars instead of 1. I can enjoy twice as many pina coladas. Fine, that makes sense, provided everybody's paying their fair share. It's the same tax rate. But when it comes to an issue of waste, and then you're talking about something that affects everyone, right? So it's a social responsibility.
Yeah.
Then it gets interesting. So just because I'm able to afford tax in a way that you don't, does that mean that I can just bludgeon the environment because I feel like it? That doesn't sound right. So I mean,
that's kind of how
like
the rich do things anyway, in general,
or whatever. But I don't agree with that. But I think the system in Korea, I think it addresses that pretty well. With recycling, regard to recycling, like I see every skyscraper has the same recycling bins that I have in my little favela here. It's the same. I don't think anybody's getting away with I'm going to throw away my garbage on the street because I'm rich. I don't see that as a thing that's happening.
I mean, that's the funny thing is, like, rich people probably, they only eat as much as, like they can only use as much toilet paper as one person can use. Do they even use toilet paper? They probably have a bidet, so they don't even have to deal with that.
Yeah, how does that work?
Yeah. No, you make an interesting point. I don't really have an answer for it. I do consider it a regressive tax, but then on the same respect, they seem to be doing a better job with their recycling waste than we are in the States. It seems like we just dump it all in the landfill, so.
Oh, for sure. The States doesn't really care. I mean, they've got the space, so they're just like, screw it. Like, just dump all your shit. There's very little reason to recycle in America.
It's being sent away. A lot of it's being sent away, isn't it? Also in Korea, like they don't. In America, we don't really fill the landfills, right? It's also being like shipped to China. Isn't that the? I don't know.
Yeah, I think
they used to take it, and now they're not taking it anymore. And so there was like a lower quality plastic that China used to take, and they stopped it a couple of years ago, or a year ago or so, and so. Yeah, there's Indonesia is shipping waste back to the United States right now because they said they're not taking anymore, and so there's a lot of we're in a real kind of I think inflection point when it comes to waste, and especially when it comes to plastic. And so I've got this chart, and this is really interesting, and I want to know what you guys think about this. It says total plastic waste generation, and the latest I could find was 2016, but it said 42 million metric tons of plastic waste is produced in the United States as of 2016, and India was number 2, China was number 3, so with 26, India was with 26, so
India and China were less than the U.S. in total
plastic waste generation. Yeah, I know that was shocking to me, but
and not per capita, but total. That's crazy.
Well, per capita is interesting. United States, 130 kilograms per person per year
of plastic. Jesus.
Of plastic waste. United Kingdom, 98 kilograms. Number 3, South Korea. 88 kilograms per person per year. So Korea's in the top 3 of the I guess the using the plastic waste, and
it doesn't surprise me. I mean, the other article that I sent to you guys about the oceans in Korea just being like flooded with plastics is ridiculous here, like compared to other places. I wonder what it's at now. It'd be interesting to see, although I mean, I'm sure this is different around the world. It's gone up, especially over the last year with everyone ordering delivery, where the plastics, you know, like everyone is just using more and more and more plastics. Everything you order now is just plastic shit.
Oh yeah, it blows my mind, man. Like
Yeah.
we get Coupang here like every day, pretty much. I love Coupang. Great service, great company, awesome. But man, every day I get a package, boxes like this big. And you know the story. You open it up, it's inside of another box. Inside of that box is a plastic bag. Inside of that plastic bag, there's some cooling pack. Next to the cooling pack, there's like my little, you know, package of strawberries. It's like this big.
I know.
You know? And I got like all this waste. The waste is bigger than the package. It's insane. But by physical
if you're
volume.
ordering food, Curly Market is pretty good. It's all paper waste.
Yeah, we use
no
that
plastic
too.
anymore. Yeah.
But it's just like impossible to avoid
Curly's
it.
rad.
I mean, it's just
Lots of
everything
good
is
stuff on Curly.
so. Now, when it comes to when you're talking about water waste, now how much of that plastic ends up in the ocean? China is the biggest contributor by far. With it goes. Let me see, what's the ranking? It goes. China's number one with 8.8 million metric tons that go into the ocean.
This is plastic waste
Indonesia is number
specifically,
two. What's that?
This is specifically plastic waste, right?
Plastic. Yeah, this is plastic waste. Yeah, we're just talking about plastic waste. Indonesia is number 2, Philippines is number 3, Vietnam is number 4, Thailand is number 5, and the US is 20th. I have a different
Is Korea
chart
on that list?
What's that? Korea is
Korea
not
on that
on.
list?
I could not find Korea on that list. They're not even in the top 10. But they are when it comes to the article that that you were referring to is microplastics. And so Korea's rivers and some of the Korean rivers and oceans have some of the most microplastic. I believe. I'm just looking here. Let's see here. Okay. As much as 990,000 tons of trash are leaked into the ocean from Korea every year. Of that, around 20% was estimated to be plastic. So the researchers, they followed the movement of some of that plastic, and it will move like thousands of miles. It'll come, you know.
Well, that's the article where they put like the GPS tags on it, right?
Yes,
Right.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah, that was a cool article.
Yeah, that was a really cool article. I'll put a link to that too. And I was just, I'm not going to, obviously read the whole article here, but yeah, some of the waste traveled up to 1,000 kilometers, and some of it ends up in that giant garbage patch. That was the first name of our podcast, but we changed it to Soul Patch, right? Pacific Garbage
Good
Patch.
change.
I'm glad we changed it. No, but there is that huge garbage patch in the Pacific. Some of it will end up in there as well. And so
I mean, plastics in the ocean are something that just piss me off to no extent. Like when I was in my last dive trip down in Indonesia. So when you said Indonesia was in the top, was that number 2? It doesn't really surprise me much because I was out like, just diving or floating around one of these islands. Suddenly I look around and I see like a trash bag floating past. And I was like, God damn it, a trash. So I go, I swim over, I grab it, I put it into the float. Like I'm gonna do my part and take out at least a trash bag. And then like I go back to diving, and then suddenly a minute later I look over and I see another trash bag, and then a fucking cloud of trash bags just goes by me in the ocean, and I just stopped. I was like, oh my. I just couldn't believe it. I was. Just
Are you sure those weren't jellyfish?
The turtles were eating them.
Just a different species. Yeah.
Like for people that haven't,
right.
Yeah, for people that are listening that are maybe from the States or whatever, if you haven't been to Southeast Asia or like in the islands, Indonesia or Sri Lanka, like you get these pictures on the internet of the beautiful beaches and the holiday scenes and everything. It comes with a cost, man. I was there was a trip I made, maybe 5 years ago. It was one of these winter vacations. I didn't have anything planned, or rather my plans got jettisoned. It was just a mess. I have all these like different trips I want to do. I literally went, this is like literal. I went on Google Earth and just kind of spun it and tried to go for something. And I ended up on this little island called Karimun Jawa off the east coast of Java. And it was
Yeah.
real romantic adventure trying to get there. I had to take a cargo ship, took 6 hours, this really cool crossing. And I got locked there. The island ran out of food due to like the weather, the oceans came up, and we got locked there. We were rationing rice by the end. Really exciting,
Wow.
fun trip.
Yeah.
And the island, for the most part, experience, the people, really cool. The main beach they had there, the sand was like equal parts blue and brown. The blue was from the caps from water bottles. I mean, just sick, just straight up sick. Like,
yeah.
there's not, you can't fix that.
Yeah.
And that's, there's people that are permanently living there. Like that's their life. Or like, the second time I was down in Bali, this is like 10 years ago. I'm sure it's worse now. I mean, who knows? I was on my way to Lombok, and my first like any flight into that region. Well, this is before. What's the airport in Lombok? Not Praia. The
Well, there's a new one.
Oh, whatever. Yeah, I can't remember. But this is just before that was built. So I was flying through Bali, and then you take the jumper flight over. They didn't have international, so I had a day to kill. So I went to Kuta, which anybody that knows Bali, Kuta is like, the kind of the big town party scene, and they have a really simple surf there, really basic surf, real easy. If you want to learn how to surf, it's great. Used to be a great place to go. So I went and got aboard and just jumped in for the day, and I turtled under a wave as I was going out. I came up, and on my bald head, I got something on my head, and I pull it off. I think it's like seaweed. I go like this. It's like a freaking cheese wrapper, like a Kraft Singles cheese wrapper,
Oh,
right?
goodness.
And you're just like you're like whatever, it's like
Oh.
murky water, it's the
Yeah.
train, whatever. So I go again, maybe 1 or 2 more times. I turtle under. I come up and I hit my head on something else, and it's like this kind of ding, and I look out. No joke, light bulb. It was a fucking light bulb. It's like I have an idea.
I thought
idea.
it
I'm
was.
not
I
going to
thought you were
surf
gonna
here.
say it was a bread bag. I was like, you got the
No.
cheese wrapper and the bread bag.
Yeah, be one level up. No, but
Oh, geez.
yeah. So
That's depressing, man. I mean, it really does.
It's
make
so
me-
sad.
It's not funny. It's not funny.
Yeah.
It's dark.
I'm glad it didn't break on your head though. At least Indonesia makes tough light bulbs, it seems.
Yeah,
Well,
I guess.
and at that moment, Ryan had an idea. So that was the,
Yeah, it's like I'm not going to surf here. I'm out.
It's a good idea.
Give this
I'm
board
out.
back and get my bike.
Yeah,
I'm outta
when
here.
just seeing that when you actually see the trash, it's like floating in those piles like that.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking.
and when
really
you
sad.
and when you realize how long it takes for that to break down, it's like
Well,
a
for
millennia,
plastics,
you know
it's
what I mean?
never.
Yeah.
Pretty much like, yeah.
I do have
Yeah,
I do
Blue
have the
Beach.
stats here if you guys are wondering. It just says according to Nature Geoscience, an article in 2018, the level of microplastics or small plastic pieces less than 5 millimeters long found in the western coastal areas of Incheon and Gyeonggi ranked second in the world. And the level of microplastics found in the southern tip of the Nakdong River was the third highest in the world. So Korea's definitely got a problem when it comes to the little microplastic.
Which
How much
coast
of this-
was that? That's off the west coast or east coast? The
I
Yellow
think
Sea?
it's
It
off
was
Incheon is off
Incheon
the
is
Incheon?
west coast.
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah,
So
pretty congested area too.
yeah.
I mean, that's where the Han River pours out too, so that kind of makes sense.
Mhm.
Like that's where it's coming from the city. I wonder how much of this has to do, and I know this is a little bit off topic from where you're going, but just like the littering problem in Korea, I think is a pretty big thing. And like how much people are just don't really take care of. I mean, it's funny how we talk about like how there's this great recycling, and there is, but
Mhm.
littering is also just like a huge issue here. We were talking about, ordering chicken at the park the other day. And I've seen some articles as well about saying that there's, just thousands and thousands of kilos of waste left at the park every
Right.
year. Right. And something, and I know we don't like to shit on really anybody in this podcast, but something interesting that I found an article about cleaning up the Korean beaches from 2016. This was a quote from an authority from the Haeundae district. They said, foreigners clean up their mess after using a public space, but Koreans seem to evade such environmental responsibility. So that's not me, a foreigner saying that. That's a Korean
Okay.
authority from Haeundae Beach.
Shots fired.
saying
Shots fired. Yeah.
um and yeah, but I mean, there's just like, I mean, the beaches and the parks and things like that, after a night, or pretty much any night, you could probably go out tonight. And although, well, with Corona, there's few people just like hanging out at the beach, but I'm sure you'd still see some. And there's probably
Yeah.
just going to be piles of, you know, beer cans and chicken boxes and shit
Oh, it
left
pisses
out.
me off,
So
man. In my house, like right in our
Yes.
driveway, in front of our building, every day, every night, you know, people. Yeah, I think it has something to do with like the drinking. Like
I mean,
you just lose
yeah.
the filter, and you just like don't give a shit anymore. You're like, I'm just gonna chuck this bottle. Like you're just gonna find a little nook or cranny, and you're just gonna shove your garbage in there, and without realizing. And I mean, I probably was guilty of it in my 20s as well, but as a 40-year-old, I'm like, you know, shaking my cane in the front yard, like, you kids, you
Oh,
know what,
yeah.
you know,
Whippersnappers.
yeah, you know, it's
Yeah,
just
when
like,
I go out running at night, so like I was saying maybe in the previous podcast, I'm running these late schedules right now. So I go out running between like 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. and the trash trucks are coming around. And where I'm in Huam, you know, it's a popular market and there's some nightlife here. It's concentrated around where the pubs are and things like that. That's where all the trash is. And it's not that there's like less traffic in the other places during the day, but yeah, it's, you know, sun's down, nobody sees what you're doing. Maybe that's why you throw it on the
I
street.
think
don't know.
I totally agree. Yeah, it's about if no one's there to see it, you know.
No.
I will say on
Human
that, something I
behavior.
remember when
just this
I
one
first
time,
came,
you know, just yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
I remember when I first came to Korea, noticing trash on the streets and being amazed at the army of trash pickup people that they have around. Because I remember so many times I'd be out in Hongdae, and I pulled a couple of very late nights, taking like the first subway car home from Hongdae. And I remember going out, and like in the beginning of the night, when you go to Hongdae at like 10, 11, 12, on the beginning of the night in Korea, even to 1, and there's just like trash piled on the streets. You know, there's flyers of come to this bar, and there's just the
Yeah.
streets are littered. Then I go into a pub and I'm hanging out for a few hours, and I come out and it's just about sunrise, and I walk out and the streets are clean.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the
And I
government's
remember just being like,
response,
what
right? Is that
this happened?
they hire people. They actually turned it into a work program. Like they give people a bag, and there are people that wear a yellow vest, and they just walk around and pick up all the garbage off the street in my neighborhood. So
And
I mean, I guess
that's something that
yeah.
I'm very willing to pay, like you were saying about how like the food waste isn't profitable. Maybe even the recycling isn't necessarily profitable. I'm okay for my tax money to go to make those things profitable. You know, give those companies enough money so that they are able to profit and save the environment for that. That's a worthwhile.
I think that's what's happening. I mean, that's what's happening. Like, I think
yeah.
we or the majority agrees with you, Kevin. Like, that's why these things are being subsidized, even though they're not cash positive. Like the end of that article, I didn't think that was necessarily a downer. It was kind of like a cliffhanger. What comes next? Will they survive? Like,
Right.
yeah, probably, because most people don't want to live in a pile of shit. Like, yep, probably we're going to keep on subsidizing efforts to try to make the world better. Like, I don't see it going away. I'm not worried about that. I hope that they can transition and be more useful, and be more efficient with the cash flow.
A lot of the trash as well.
Yeah.
Like, Jack, did you find much about so you know, when you separate your trash here, right? Like, so the trash goes into the trash bags, and that gets picked up by the garbage men that are paid to do that. But like when I throw away my cardboard boxes that come from all of my shipping that I do, when I take out my plastic container bag, when I take out my bottles bag or my cans or things like that, I put those out on the street. Those are not picked up by employees.
No, this
trash
is another
company.
kind of a sad reality, is that a lot of that stuff is picked up by these harmonies, these elderly women that kind of walk around with a cart, and they get some money. So apparently their Social Security is not, in order to supplement their Social Security. a lot of elderly people who don't have children or are estranged from their children or for whatever reason
the
are,
pensionless.
yeah, pensionless, right? They're subsidized. They're part of their income comes from collecting trash, and I think it's one of those like how do you I don't know how to explain. It's like a open secret kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like I don't think people are not talking about it, but it's you see it all the time. But it's just one of those things where you kind of put your head down and you kind of don't want to have to reckon with the reality of that situation. You know, I think it's quite sad and depressing that they're, you know, left to that. But I don't know enough about it. You know, like, is it because they don't have enough to live on, or are they just hustling? You know what I mean? Like, it's just
Yeah,
like,
see that's the spin that I've heard both ways.
yeah.
I would default to what you're thinking, like, or what you first suggested, that it's a sad scene and someone's doing it to survive. But I've heard it spun. I've talked to people, I've read about it, where the idea is exactly that. It's that these people do have a survivable pension, and they're doing it because they want a little more flow. Just like my one of my grandfathers, after he retired, you know this story. My father's going through right now. He retired, and now they're volunteering. You know,
you got to work. You got to do something. You know,
yeah. So I've heard it spun that way, but it's a little bit different. Like thinking about like my father, my grandfather, my mom, volunteering at like St. Vincent de Paul, you know, like this kind of thing, or the food pantry, versus picking up somebody's dog shit on the side of the street. Yeah, it's
or
is
just
that really
carrying with your, you know, kind of hunched over back, this
yeah,
heavy, you know,
yeah.
cart
Like
of boxes.
pulling the cart. That I don't see
I'm
my
like,
I don't see my
good
dad
Lord.
doing that.
Yeah. I can't spin that.
But
Yeah.
But I'm reserving ultimate judgment because I don't really know the story.
And that's exactly where I kind of land, because I don't want to talk out of school here, because, you know, we don't know the ins and outs of it, but yeah, it's something that they're just I have never heard Korean people really talk about it. It's just kind of like
I wonder how much you can earn by, you know, like per kilo of plastic or per kilo of cardboard, things like that. Like I know that my in-laws, like there's some things that they don't throw out in the street because it's enough for them to be worth taking it back to the shop. So for example, like my father-in-law's soju bottles, right?
Okay,
like those have you know, those are what, like are they big one per bottle now? I don't know exactly. Right, but there's like a specific amount that each bottle is worth, and so it's worth taking, you know, saving up, you know, 10 bottles and taking those back to the store and getting your chomon for it. And so those they don't take out on and just leave on the street, whereas like the cardboard boxes they do. So there's I'm curious what the amount is, just because, you know, I would feel less bad. Again, we don't know, but if it was, you know, if you could actually make like an okay-ish income, again, if the government was subsidizing taking out the trash by paying a couple chonwon per kilo of whatever, and maybe that's not so bad. If it's, you know, like them hustling and they're taking this huge cart of trash to the store and they make like, you know, manwon for it.
If there's
and
anything,
I also don't know. I don't think it's very much, but I don't know.
If there's anything I learned,
but also
it could
also be like my parents. I mean, they don't get paid at all.
Yeah. Oh,
right.
We're right.
I mean, I don't think that's the situation here. Maybe, but it's possible. I mean, my parents both volunteer. They're doing it, I don't know, it's like 20 hours a week or something, and they get nothing.
Right.
You know,
it's so. I mean, there are plenty of stories of people on the internet who are like, I just went out to the beach today and cleaned the beach. Yeah, like, so it's.
There's a story. You know, you've heard the story of like the elderly woman selling kimbap, you know, on the over ramp, you know, where the subway station is or whatever, and she donates, you know, 150 grand to a local university when she passes away. Like, you know what I mean? You cannot judge people by their, you know, there is a sort of a hustle spirit, which is obviously must come from post-war, you know, mentality. Just like our grandparents came out of the Depression. with that kind of attitude, or that kind of, you never know when the rainy day is coming. So, let's, work when you can work, do what you can do, save when you can save. So it's
Yeah,
interesting.
it's an interesting system,
Yeah.
that trash here, and I do think, I mean, again, that's one of the things, that's where recycling works so well in Korea, is it's so easy for you and I to recycle. I just take it out to the street. All I have to do is separate it.
Exactly.
And yeah, you have to separate it well, and you have to separate it correctly, and take off your labels and things like that. But all you have to do is take it out in the States. And it's one of the reasons I didn't recycle when I was a student, is because it wasn't easy to do, right? My apartment complex didn't have a big recycling bin. We just had a big trash bin. And if I wanted to take things to recycle, like, I had to take it to a recycling place, which I didn't have a car. That's a pain in the ass. And so recycling works better here.
Just but we're kind of getting right to the end here, the closing. And I'm just wondering, like, do you guys ever have like a good find out there on the side of the road that you were just like, I got to take this, I'm gonna upcycle this thing, I'm gonna I ripped a mirror off of a vanity table and mounted it in my living room. It looks fantastic. It looks it's the best thing I've ever done DIY. It's very simple, but it was it really kind of made the space look larger, and it kind of fit perfectly. And I was proud of myself because I took some garbage and I made it into something usable, and my wife didn't hate it. So that was
yeah, that's what stops me from picking up most of the things that I see, and then our house is just has no space for anything.
Okay.
And you can see around in the background here, we are wall to wall of things.
Ryan, do you ever?
We don't have a lot of.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of like furniture stuff. I do have a mirror that was also rescued from the side of the street in my kitchen, very large. It sits behind the bar. But my girlfriend is kind of a Junkonara Dangun master.
Okay.
If there's anything I want to buy, I have to run it by her first, because I need to know that it's like reasonable to pay full price.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's like a sport. It's like a sport around here.
The used market is becoming more, more common here, I think. And before it would just seem like, gosh, just some of the things people were throwing away. I was like, wow, looks so nice and new, but I didn't have any space for it because, I guess that's why they're throwing it away. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like things kind of hold their value a little bit better here too. I don't know. It's hard to say. But when I buy things, I don't know. Maybe it's the same. You're living in a city of 10 million or whatever we have here. I don't know how you measure Seoul. The density is so high. You can just, if you put a little effort into it, you can find some crazy things. Like right now to my left, I have this monitor. It's a 49-inch gaming monitor that I didn't get for gaming. The reason I have this huge monitor is I wanted to have two monitors. So I told my girlfriend, hey, I want to have an extra monitor. She said, what are you looking for? I said, well, I already had a 25-inch. I said, I want another 27-inch. It's for work. I'd like to have my grade books up here and then, my project stuff here. So the same thing we all have in our offices. And moving into this new place last year, I didn't have that. So I was about to buy something new. And she said, well, hang on, let me look around, see what I can find. And in a matter of like a week, she finds this guy who's like an ex-drone pilot instructor that had a ton of these brilliant Samsung 49-inch monitors that are less than 5 months old. And he's just trying to dump them. And I can get one for cheaper than the 27-inch cheap monitor I was like, stuff like this comes up more often here than if you're living in like northeastern Wisconsin, just because there's density. So if you really do want to find a deal, big urban areas are a good place to do it. That's a default, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. there are so many deals to be found. I just like listeners out there, if you're a Hagwon teacher or whatever, and you're looking for a sofa, go to a big apartment complex, pay the moving fee. You're going to find a good sofa for free. you go on, Jungo Nara, and you can find deals there all day long. It's amazing.
Oh yeah, especially for anybody coming in new. If you're a teacher and you're landing and you don't have that kind of setup, and you're stuck with like a lot of people I've heard of, you get set up with an apartment or something from your employer, whether or not your teacher or whatever. If you're coming here and they give you the full facility, and you don't like the mattress, don't go to like Shinsegae and look for a full mattress frame, everything. You're going to spend $2,000. I mean, that's
right.
You can't really get under that price point. But keep your frame and just go. I mean, you can or go online and find a frame that's used and just buy the mattress.
Yeah,
there's a lot of workarounds.
Exactly. It's just
if you don't like your refrigerator, throw it away and you can get another one for a couple $100.
Don't look for used stuff. There's so many good deals here. I'll tell you what, let's leave it there, guys. Is that cool? You guys feel good about this
Sounds
one?
good.
Yeah.
Always can keep going, but yeah.
Yeah, I know. I could go all day, but we'll say we'll call it for tonight. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Hit the like button for the videos. If you're listening to the podcast, you can find us on all the major platforms, iTunes, Stitcher, Amazon Music. And if you want to help us out, leave a review in Apple Podcasts. That really, does something with the algorithm and moves us up the rankings. And that'd be great. And we're still waiting for that email. I promise to read it. thesoulpatch@gmail.com. Soul is spelled SEOUL. And I guess we'll say goodbye. Take care, fellas. And we'll see you at the patch next week. Good night.
I'd like to pay a couple respects to the people that made me what I am today.
Talkin Gear.
It's all my love. It's all my love.
The quiet man.
It's all my love. It's all my love.
Dopamine. Jim.
It's all my love. It's all my love. It's all my love.
The brain.
It's all my love. It's all my love.
Hey, Bobby.
My love.
Let the bass go.